Welcome back. Today we'll be speaking with another author. He'll be sharing his book. I almost wonder if we should call it a book. Well, join me in the Quip Corner and you'll see what I mean about whether a book is the right word for describing this piece of work. See you in a bit. Welcome to the Quip Corner, Brett.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Thank you. Well, I have chatted with you, gotten to know you a bit, but a lot of our viewers may not have met you yet. So can you please introduce yourself to us?
Sure. My name's Brett Ullman. I live in a town called Ajax. Ajax is about 45 minutes east of the city of Toronto in Ontario. I was a teacher for a decade and about 16 years ago moved into a role as a full-time speaker, and I travel across Canada and into the US, a little different during COVID season, but I speak on current issues we often, especially in the church world, need to speak on, but don't. Parenting, mental health, sexuality, pornography, dating, media, and my newest talk is really looking at men. How do we be better fathers, husbands, and boyfriends?
Okay. Wow. That sounds interesting. Maybe we should get you back in the Quip Corner to talk about Father's Day.
Would love to.
That's an idea. Okay. We'll park that for now. So please tell us a bit about your newest book.
Sure. The book actually came from a talk. I was at a talk, how many years ago was it? Probably about 2 and a bit years ago. No, actually, probably 3 and a bit years ago. And I was speaking on mental health. And after I finished, a father came up to me and said, "Brett, how do I talk to my daughter about sex?" Great question. And I went to answer, but before I could answer, he interrupted and said, "Oh, wait, by the way, she hates me." And then he said, go on. And I kind of went like, I said, "What?" And he said, "Oh, don't worry about that. How do I talk to her about sex?" And I'm like, "No, forget about sex. What do you mean your daughter hates you? Because that's everything." And I said to him, "If you don't have a relationship with your kid, you will not be speaking truth into her life on this tough topic." And when I drove home that night, I realized I have all this topical conversation, but I don't have a talk geared for foundations of parenting. And so I began multi-year research, took about 3 years to create a talk, but I actually ended up creating a book. And so this just got released in July, Parenting, Navigating Everything. It's not a normal book. It is 226,000 words. It has 660 citations and 16 chapters. The goal for me was to create one resource for a parent. So it's not 6 books, and the last 10 chapters are 10 different topics, but it's one place, kind of a choose your own adventure for parents.
Nice. Wow. It's almost sounds like an encyclopedia and a map all pulled in together.
I use the word handbook, like I call it a handbook. The first 6 chapters are what I talked about. It's how do we have a good relationship with our kids? So it's parenting styles, communication. How do we have good, rich communication with our kids? What does spending time with our kids look like? And then discipline. And I really think we get discipline wrong. We think of discipline as punishment, and discipline is really about teaching, yes. Right? How do we teach our kids to learn and live and interact in the world around them? And so that's the foundation. And then the rest of the book is mental health, pornography, finances, education. And a new chapter, the last one of the book's on loneliness, which during COVID has become something we talk about a lot more. But yes. It's been an issue that's, especially for men my age, I'm 49, men 40 through 60, but we're seeing it with teenagers and junior high students. They're so connected, but they're so lonely these days.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say this because I remember listening to something, can't remember what it was, but someone made a comment. It was a medical doctor that made a comment and said that we definitely phrased this wrong by saying social distancing versus physical distancing because people are truly isolated. Okay.
And I think that's one of the bigger issues. We've been socially distancing, which we're not asked to. We're asked to physically distance, but yes. No matter where you're at, no matter where you're at in Canada, we're just coming out of lockdown where I'm at. Some places are going back into lockdown. It doesn't mean you can't go to a neighbor's house and whether you can sit on their porch or you stand on their driveway or you go for a walk, there's still
Mhm.
things we should be doing.
Agreed, agreed. Okay. So can you please read a bit of your book to us?
Sure. It's an interesting question. I get asked this a lot, and I struggle with what to do because there's so much in it. Like, I struggle with mental health. I had a breakdown 8 years ago, and so anxiety and panic are part of my life. So I'm like, I want to go to mental health. And but I'm like, but loneliness is a really big issue. But I ended up just taking a chapter at the beginning of my book because it's kind of it's just like not a chapter. I have a couple of paragraphs here. Here we go. So first, what I talked about was all the issues that kids are dealing with at younger and younger ages today. So here's what I said. However, I would say to all parents that this isn't a hopeless situation. If you choose to talk to your kids about these tough issues, you can help them learn new skills, develop wise patterns of behavior, and realize how emotions affect decision making and understand why some things should be avoided. Even if you really don't know what to say sometimes, being engaged in any conversation is a great start. It's a tremendous foundation for our kids to know they aren't alone in their struggles.
Thank you. And that is spot on. In February, we celebrated Family Day in Alberta and in different parts of Canada. And one of my videos was speaking to that, about the importance of family values, the importance of knowing what is important and sharing it with our children. Those are crucial conversations. It's amazing how many parents are unwilling to have those, shall I say, uncomfortable conversations.
And I think sometimes I try to give people the benefit of the doubt that they're not doing it because they just don't know what to do. And so they're paralyzed and they just don't say it. And that's where I think the church and other leaders and YouTube channel, like I think we can all come alongside. I always use the Home Depot slogan, you can do it, we can help. Like, parenting's tough, it is. And like, so you think of mental health, you're like, where do I start? It's like, well, there's some great things online, and there's speakers like me or a book or different things that you can get to help you along with that, and use all the other adults around you. Use your other pastors and leaders and authors and coaches and teachers. We need all that together.
That's so true. That's so true. We all need to do this together because our children are our future. And if we all raise our children right, we have a beautiful future ahead of us.
I always think too, there's a prevention conversation. There's a great book by Dan Heath called Upstream. So like, before we have a kid addicted to porn who's 18, let's have good, healthy conversations on sex when they're younger. Then this progression of parenting. Before we have marriages that have disintegrated, how do we talk to parents about having good marriages? Like, I love the idea of looking back to how can we have prevention with some of these things as opposed to having the chaos. It was Frederick Douglass who once said a long time ago, it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. And we'd say men and women.
Yes.
Well, what a great idea. Let's not deal with the brokenness. Let's look at, now it's a both and. Of course we deal with the brokenness.
Yes.
But how do we go back and prevent some of these conversations from happening?
Yeah. I mean, how do we build right? Because everybody knows that like doing renos and things like that costs more money. And it's almost like, okay, what could we have avoided?
I like that. How do we build right? I like that line.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. You talk about you go around speaking at conferences and things like that. At the bottom of this video, we're going to put in your contact details, your website, and things like that. If somebody wanted an autographed copy of your book, how will they get one?
Well, my website is just my name, brettullman.com, and you can find that below. My website, I always say, is more of a landing place. So I have a blog on that with probably 1,000 different articles, blogs, YouTube videos. Like, I curate the best content on all the topics. All my social media is at the top. So I have a YouTube channel where I think I have 200 videos looking at all these conversations. But on my website, you'll also find my shop where you can get an autographed book, but you can also find it on Amazon and those. But I can't autograph those ones. So if you do want a signed copy, it's got to come through my website.
Thank you. And that's exactly what I say to people. They say to me, oh, Ada, I'd love a copy of your book. I'm like, oh, sure, you can get it wherever. But if you want an autographed copy, you need to be talking to me.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. And you talked about speaking at conferences and things like that. Your website, what's the best way to get through to you?
Yeah, we ended up putting all the information on one. So one, it also says talks, and it will show you all the different talks that I have, and there's videos for them. And I travel, again, COVID's changed this a little, but I travel predominantly throughout Canada. I'm in every province. I know you're in Calgary. I'm out that way usually 2 or 3 times a year, but
Okay.
Sunday morning services, sometimes I do an entire weekend. Sometimes I'm out just for a day or two at a conference, but I travel, so camps, conferences, churches. I did an entrepreneur group recently in Edmonton. It's kind of whoever is looking for a conversation to kind of spark their group for some good conversation on whatever I speak on. That's kind of what I do these days. Yeah.
Excellent. That's great to know. And, I am truly privileged, and it's been a pleasure having you in the Quip Corner.
Thank you. If there's any questions people have, they can, I answer all whether it's social media or email, they can all find me online as well.
Super. That's good to know. Because sometimes when you hear all that a person is doing, you're like, I wonder if I can get to him, versus going through like 5 people to say, oh no, we'll get back to you when we have a moment. So it's good to know that we have direct access to you.
Always. This is my office. It comes straight into here. So yes, for sure.
Super. Thanks again for joining me in the Quip Corner. I really, really appreciate it. And may I just very quickly extend a future invitation to you.
Thank you for having me. And I would love to come back and talk about other topics another day for sure.
Thanks, Brett.
Thanks.
What did you think about that? It was pretty good, if you ask me. If you remember my video in February where I was saying that we need to think of those things that are important and share with our children if we believe that our children are important to us. That's what Brett's saying. Well, I hope you check out his website and consider inviting him to one of your events. I'm sure we'll be better off when we build our children right versus trying to fix what has gone wrong. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. And like I always say, if you wait a bit, you'll find out who our next guest will be. The bio will be right after this. Take care.